I want to start tonight by saying to you that if a politician comes to talk to you about elections and they don't talk about unemployment in South Africa and crime, then they're not serious. Then they're not worth voting for. Our greatest challenge in this country is the fact that 10 million South Africans are unemployed and that every second young person is unemployed. So unless we deal with that, we'll never be able to deal with crime, and we will be faced with a recipe for revolution. Now, I want to tell you that revolution is something that we don't want to experience in South Africa. If you think about what's happening in Sudan, if you think what's happening in Venezuela and other places of conflict in the world, you will realize that a revolution will make unemployment for our young people seem like a picnic. I want to read you something that I read this week. South Africa's decline over the past 12 months has been the worst of conflict-free nations in the world. So if you add conflict to what we are experiencing now, it will make this country, hell that we're going through, seem like a picnic. Let me read that to you again. South Africa's decline over the past 12 months has been the worst of conflict-free nations across the world. It's due to the Zuma era. That was a report by Mix, and we went from, out of 178 countries being measured, we went from position 31 in 2006 to position number 88 in 2018. So if anybody who is part of the current government comes to Secunda and says, "Kanis votele, ngoba inkqubelo iyayenzeka phantsi kwethu, uzuyazi bayaxoxa." So if any politician can come here who is from the governing party and says, "Vote for us because things have improved," they're lying. So let me just start by saying, South Africans have got a really great characteristic or trait that is one of our greatest strengths. Ons kan vir mekaar lag en ons kan vir onsself lag. Maar dit kan ook, it can be a great weakness. And let me give you an example of that. In February, when load shedding visited us again, ons het almal sulke snaakse boodskapies op ons fone gestuur toe die ligte af was. One of the best or the worst that I received was a black screen on my phone with 4 white eyes, and they called it a Eskom selfie. Now, it might be funny, but that's also our weakness in South Africa, because we accept mediocrity. Ons aanvaar agteruitgang. As ons paie nie meer begaanbaar is met 'n 2-wiel aangedrewe kar, dan koop ons 'n 4-wiel aangedrewe kar. In plaas van te sê, dit is onaanvaarbaar, ons wil 'n regering hê wat ons paie gaan regmaak. Ons wil 'n regering wat die ligte gaan aanhou hê. So I want you to understand that you can make choices in life. And if you don't make choices, other people are going to make choices for you. So this recipe of revolution that we are faced with in South Africa is a direct legacy of 9 wasted years. That's what Cyril Ramaphosa called the Zuma administration. 9 wasted years. Ace Magashule, Didi Mabuza argued with him and said they weren't. But let me tell you, the 10 years that Didi Mabuza has been the premier of this province are a legacy of 10 wasted years, just like Jacob Zuma's. I have traveled through this province now, and I just see a legacy of neglect en agteruitgang. So, a lot of people think that state capture is a Zuma mistake, that it's a Zuma aberration. It only happened under Zuma. Let me tell you how state capture works. You've seen it on TV, you've seen the Zondo Commission, but let me explain something that you probably have never heard before. State capture is by design of the ANC policies. Hulle het beleid in the National Democratic Revolution document, and the objective there is stated in black and white, that it's the ANC's objective to take over all levers of state. Now, when a political party wants to take over the levers of state, that means that they are capturing the state. And how do they do that? They do it through cadre deployment. No? You've heard of it? And let me explain to you. The deputy president of the ANC is the chairman of the cadre deployment committee. That's how it works. So currently Didi Mabuza is the chairman of the cadre deployment committee. So you can imagine what kind of people he's going to be deploying. But the person who deployed, 3 examples, I'm going to give you 3 examples. The person who deployed Brian Molefe to Transnet, who stole it blind. After the Agrizi and Bosasa exposures, watch what's happening at Transnet. They stole hundreds of billions of rand. Cyril Ramaphosa then deployed the same Brian Molefe to Eskom. Cyril Ramaphosa deployed Dudu Myeni, Jacob Zuma's girlfriend, to South African Airways and kept her there, despite the fact that she stole that institution blind. And Gaudi Motsoneng was deployed by Cyril Ramaphosa. So everyone says Cyril Ramaphosa is the new savior of South Africa. Despite what Pastor Blake said here, I'm a politician. I'm competing for votes. I agree with everything that he said about Christ and about God. But I am here to tell the truth about what's happening in this country. And I can't stand by and watch the ANC destroy this country further. So I'm not going to say nice things just to go along to get along. But I'm not going to tell any lies, and I'm not going to pick on anybody in particular. But where I come from, and my understanding is, if you're a leader, jy moet verantwoordelikheid vat. Cyril Ramaphosa, when he became president, not yesterday, 1.5 years lank, is hy president van hierdie land. Now, I want to tell you what has happened in this country. When he became president, he said there would be 3% economic growth. He said it, I didn't say it. That's now been reviewed, and they now say between 1 and 1.2%. Okay? That means we are getting poorer every day that Cyril Ramaphosa is the president. If you have a pension, and you've worked your whole life to save money for your golden years, you are getting poorer by the day because your pension investments are not even keeping up with inflation. So if I didn't have a DA shirt on and I wasn't the chairman of the DA, when I went to vote, or when I do go and vote on the 8th of May, I'm going to ask myself, is this government looking after me? And the answer is no. So I would never vote for him. But there's some other reasons why I wouldn't vote for him. He went to Davos, the World Economic Forum, and he told the world that the ANC would not nationalize the South African Reserve Bank. 2 weke later was hy in die parlement het gesê, die ANC gaan die Reservebank nationaliseer. Do you remember that? He said that this white voters are going to help the ANC save Gauteng. Ace Magashule said the next day, we don't need white voters. The ANC is full of contradictions. They contradict each other all the time. We've lost our position as the greatest economy in Africa, and the ANC must take responsibility for that. It's not as if we were growing and trying to become. We were the greatest economy and the biggest economy, most successful economy. Now we're second to Nigeria and we are slipping. So how do you make an economy grow? There's some simple things. Economic growth is stimulated by policy certainty. Have you ever wondered why we can't stimulate growth under the current government? Well, I'll tell you why. Die 3 mense wat verantwoordelik is vir ons ekonomie is Rob Davies, Ibrahim Patel en Pravin Gordhan. Hulle is almal ANC-lede, maar hulle is almal communiste. Now, I know that in 1989, because I went to Berlin, the Berlin Wall came down, the Iron Curtain came down, the Cold War came to an end. The whole world declared that socialism and communism is a failed philosophy. Maar in Suid-Afrika wil ons nou nog ons dik voet in daai klein glas skoentjie van Cinderella probeer indruk. It is a failed and archaic philosophy, an economic principle of communism. It's not working. And you know, if you do the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome, it is the definition of madness. Then you get sent to an institution. Kan ons nie die ANC na 'n instansie toestuur? talking about these contradictions that keep going on and on and on. The ANC has been talking about crime and creating jobs for so long. Let me tell you, they can't fix it. The High Commissioner for the United Kingdom, Nigel Casey, told me in December when I asked him, after Brexit, are you going to improve your trade relations with South Africa? Because the United Kingdom and South Africa have had hundreds of years of history of trading. And he said, he's not sure. And I said, but against the background of Brexit, you need new trading partners. And he said, there's resistance to invest in South Africa. Firstly, because of crime. Secondly, because there's no guarantee of energy and water, electricity and water. Thirdly, because of maladministration, red tape, bureaucracy. Fourthly, corruption. And then fifthly, expropriation without compensation. So those are the things that the government should be fixing in order to attract investment, but they're not prepared to do anything about those. They don't even talk about those issues in their manifesto, but we certainly do. So what we're saying, and I want to come and tell you that to try and inspire you, not that I need to, because you've got 15 councillors here and you've got new members coming to this party every day, but I want to tell you that in Nelson Mandela Bay, the people wanted change, and they voted for change, and they got change. Now we're out of government now after 2 years, it doesn't matter. I was never a mayor before, so ek is nie afhanklik aan burgemeester wees. But I know we'll be back, because people are now making comparisons. They had 25 years of ANC, 23 years of ANC government, they've had 2 years of DA government, and they're back to 7 months of ANC government again. And they know the difference, and they want us back. So we'll bide our time. You know, unfortunately, we lost our government. Not just because of the ANC and the UDM getting together. Een van ons het ons uitverkoop. One of our own councillors het buite stemming gebly. He abstained when they were having a motion of no confidence against our speaker. So our government fell. I can't only blame the other people. One of our own, who we gave great opportunities, voted against us. But you know, the pastor was telling us about Christ. People turned his back on him. And you know, they thought it was the end of him. Well, it wasn't the end of him. It was just the beginning of him. He lives with us here every single day, even after they crucified him. None of us have been crucified. But I'm telling you, every time they write the DA off, every time somebody leaves, every time somebody does something bad to the DA, toe Martinus geloop het hulle gesê, dis die einde van die DA. Inteendeel, dit was net die begin. And now Patricia de Lille, and then Umanyati, it's not the end, it's the beginning. We will come back stronger and stronger, and we will come back even stronger in this election. But what we do know is there's been no change in the ANC. You know, can I be a little bit, it's not crude because most of us have had children or have had something to do with children. When you change a child's nappy, you don't take a dirty nappy off and put a clean one on. There's some fundamental things you've got to do in between doing that. You've got to clean the baby's bum and disinfect it and make sure it's dry and put powder on and then put the new nappy on. If you don't do that, you haven't changed the nappy. And why do babies cry? They cry because they're wet or they're hungry. And in South Africa, people are hungry and they are wet. Now in Zimbabwe, they replaced Mugabe with Mnangagwa. And they changed nothing else. No disinfecting. Here in South Africa, we changed Zuma with Ramaphosa. But the ANC top 6 is still there. In fact, they call it the toxic. Hulle is giftig, daai ouens. En hulle is eintlik in beheer. They lead Ramaphosa. So we need to change. We can't have the same bus, same route, with a different bus driver, en jy dink jy gaan by 'n ander plek uitkom. Gaan nie gebeur nie. So ek het geluister na die president toe hy praat in die parlement by die stand van die nasie toespraak. He told us all the things that we know that are broken. Crime, unemployment, poor health care, bad education outcomes. He went through the whole list. And then he said, and we are going to fix them. Remember, he said, watch this space. Ek was in die parlement, ek het daar gesit. And I looked down, I was sitting above his cabinet. And I looked down there and said, yes, die ou dink ons is onnoosel. Dieselfde mense wat al daai goed gebreek het, hy sê hy gaan dit regmaak. And then you look at the ANC list, dis dieselfde name. Toe sê die ANC, nee, ons gaan daai lys, is dit reinig? Ons gaan hom skoonmaak. We're going to send it to the Integrity Commission, en hulle gaan dit reinig. Ace Magashule said 2 days ago, they're not going to change the list. The list is final. More contradictions. Daai mense is kriminele. They should have gone to prison, not parliament. But the ANC is going to send them back to parliament. The ANC told us 5 years ago, the economy is going to grow through state-led infrastructure growth. Now that sounds good, because you know there are many countries in the United States after the Great Depression, they had the New Deal, where the state invested massively in economic, construction, massively. Now I want to ask you, if we were going to have state-led infrastructure growth, surely we would have built a big dam by now, or built a bridge, or built a new university, or built some hospitals. Bosman, have they built a hospital in this province in the last few years? Busy with one outside Middelburg. En? Ook besig daarmee. Well, in 20 years, they're busy with 2 hospitals in this province. In the city of Cape Town, in 5 years, we built 4 hospitals, the DA. The 5 big construction companies in South Africa are all being liquidated right now. So if there was state-led infrastructure growth, would that have happened? No, it wouldn't have happened. Why? Because the state doesn't pay, they steal money, they put out contracts, and then the contracts fall apart, and small, medium, micro enterprises that are ANC linked, because they talk about broad-based black economic empowerment, but they don't empower the broad base, they just empower abantu bathile that are close to the ANC. And then they come there and they demand 30% of the contract value. Maar hulle het nie eens 'n krywa nie, of 'n graaf. Hulle wil nie eens werk nie, hulle soek net daai 30%. And that's why these companies are closing down. In Nelson Mandela Bay, the Chinese invested 11 billion rand 4 years ago to build a factory to put cars together to export into Africa. 4 years ago. They're still building the factory because SMMEs have made it impossible. Now, I've been to China. They build cities in a year in China. New cities. They build it in a year. Maar in Suid-Afrika kan hulle nie eens 'n fabriek bou in 4 jaar. That's the reality. That's why people don't want to invest in this country. So, what should we be doing differently? Well, we should do what we've done where we govern, and we've done it with success. In the Western Cape, there's an organization called Westgrow that we established, which means Western Cape Growth. Our economy has grown. It's the only province that's got a growing economy. We have the lowest unemployment in the whole country, 19% lower than the rest of the country in the Western Cape. We created more jobs in our led province than all of the other 8 put together in the last year. We have a recipe of success. So why not use it? Why not implement it? It's South African, it's genuine, it's organic, it's working. What did the ANC do? Hulle stuur Ace Magashule Venezuela to go and learn some best practice. In the most dysfunctional country in the world, that's where the ANC goes to learn. Dis geen wonder dat ons nie hond haar af kan maak met ons groei in die ekonomie. So we also need to change legislation. There's some old archaic legislation that needs to be repealed, like the Protection of Investment Act, the National Security Clause and the Competition Amendment Bill. But there are 3 pieces of legislation that we are going to oppose with everything that we have. And we are the biggest party other than the ANC by a long, long way. There are 3 pieces of legislation that the EFF are sponsoring. Because what's happened in this country now, die EFF is die stert en hulle swaai vir die hond wat die ANC is. Umsila usukumisinja. Ne? Andicho? Even expropriation without compensation was because of the EFF. At the last minute of the ANC Congress, they thought, hey, they don't even know how they're going to do it, but bafunu yenza. So, expropriation without compensation, changing the Constitution, and changing Section 25, the property clause. We will oppose it in Parliament, we will oppose it in the courts of the land, and we will oppose it in the international courts. We believe that every South African should have the right to own land and have a title deed. That is the only way that we will grow this economy and give people real power. If you have to be a landlord, a tenant to a government, and landlords like Malema or Makashule or Mabuza, heaven help you. Heaven help you. So that's the first one that we will fight. The second one is we will oppose the nationalization of the South African Reserve Bank, because that will break the last vestige of any kind of confidence in South Africa. And then what we will also oppose is the creation of a state-owned bank. Why do they want a state-owned bank, the EFF? Remember what they did to VBS. They cleaned it out. Now they want the keys to South Africa's money, not just the Northwest, South Africa's money, so that they can clean that out. Ons sal dit teenstaan met alles wat ons het. There's a thing that happens in this country that is a curse almost as great as corruption. It's called transactional sex. If you want something done and you're a poor South African and you go to a municipality or a province or a department, they'll say, we'll help you if you sleep with me. I met a woman on Tuesday who told myself and a journalist from Die Rapport, and you'll see it in the story hopefully on Sunday. She said that she went to try and sort out an issue with the ownership of her house. And the guy at the ANC headquarters in the Eastern Cape at Florence Matomela House said to her, I know you've got a daughter. Bring your daughter to me and I'll help your house, sort your house out. Because she said she was too old. That's what's happening here. So we're saying in our manifesto that corruption, if you're found guilty of corruption and you're an administrator or a politician, minimum sentence 15 years. And we want transactional sex to be declared a corrupt activity. So if you're found guilty of taking advantage of women because they are in need, you must go to jail for 15 years. Now, let me just get a bit closer here, and I don't have to tell you too much about electricity because you know much more than I do about it. But Eskom used to be an acclaimed state-owned enterprise. It was innovative, it was great company. Okay? History records it as such. But you know, in the United Kingdom, if you want to be the chairman of a state-owned energy generating company, you've got to have 15 years experience in energy generation before you're appointed. In the USA, it's 12 years of experience. The last three chairmen and the one that's coming, Maria Ramos, have had no experience in energy generation. I'm telling you, it's going to be a disaster. Nothing's going to change. Because even, I saw a headline this week, we're going to privatize part of Eskom. No, we're not. Maybe we will. We'll see after the election. That's what the ANC is talking about. Because they don't want to privatize it. They wanted a monopoly. They want to keep the monopoly so they can control the money and the 17 billion that they've just been given, just to keep the lights on. But I want to tell you that it'll never work until you have proper management. If you buy coal at a premium price and you pay up front and it's not delivered, jy sal nie die krag kan aanhou. It's like a bakery. If you buy flour from a supplier and they don't, and you pay for it and they don't supply the flour, you won't sell bread. You won't make bread. If you don't maintain your plant, it'll start grinding to a halt. And that's what we've been seeing. We even saw us narrowly averting a 1 trillion rand deal with Russia to build a nuclear power station. 1 trillion rand. And that would have gone to 2 and 3 trillion rand. We've seen what's happened with Kusile and Madupe. It's gone 3, 4, 5, 6,000% more than the original quotes. But I want to tell you something that should worry every one of you. Cyril Ramaphosa was appointed as the chairman of a special cabinet committee in 2014 by Jacob Zuma to sort out Eskom. After a year, in June 2015, he said in Parliament, I've been at Eskom for a year. I've seen great things at Eskom, and you can look forward to great things coming out of Eskom. 2 years later, Jacob Zuma said, before he was replaced as president, there will never ever be load shedding again in South Africa. In February, during the worst load shedding in the history of this country, Didi Mabuza said, the reason we're having load shedding is because our economy is growing too fast. Now let me tell you, there's a classic example of how easily we laugh. Those are the 3 most senior people in this country, in our government, and they have no clue about why the lights are not on. Cyril Ramaphosa sit in 'n trein in Pretoria met sy hande en sy hare vir 4 ure want die trein loop nie. Surely you'd think he'd know that if there's no electricity, an electric train can't move. And he was shocked. He's always shocked. Hy's altyd geskok. As hy iets uitvind, hy's geskok asof hy nie hier bly nie. He was shocked that it sit there for 4 hours. But the people who use the trains in this country, they sit on trains every day for hours. They arrive late at work because the trains don't run. We have more derailments in this country now in 1 month than we had in 10 years in the past. Die treine val. These guys are so out of touch and so out of their depth that they should be out of government. I told Bosman this morning, because here in this province of yours, people, big cattle farmers, big energy, coal mining, it's a bit like Texas. In Texas, everyone's involved with cattle or oil. And they all wear Stetsons, sulke groot hoedens. But there's a saying in Texas that you get people that baie praat and min doen, of kan nie doen nie. They refer to them as big hat, no cattle. I could not think of a better way to describe the ANC. Groot hoed, geen beeste. So let me just tell you, we believe that we should be focusing on labor-absorptive sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, textiles, mining, to keep the platteland economy going, because those are all crucial parts of the platteland. You live in the platteland. Most of the people in this country live in the platteland. The biggest part of South Africa is the platteland. Some people call it rural areas, whatever you like, it's the platteland. And if the platteland economy collapses, the economy of the country collapses. Successful nations sponsor the platteland economy. The United States, Germany, the United Kingdom, France, they sponsor and subsidize the rural economy. Because if it collapses, you have hongersnood and the people flood to the cities and the cities can't cope, and then you have revolution. We're not looking after our platteland economy in this country. So we say we must adapt some of our rules. We must say small businesses should be exempt from restrictive legislation like minimum wage. And some people say, oh, how can you say that? Well, let me explain to you. Most of the poor people in this country live on the outskirts of towns. They use up to 40% of their daily or monthly income on traveling, transport. Arme mense weet het. I don't even have to ask the poor people in this room even to understand that. But if you're not poor and you live in the center of town, do a calculation in your mind while you're sitting there and work out what 40% of your monthly income is. And imagine what that would do to your bottom line if you had to spend it on transport. So if you want to promote small business and you say to people in the township that you don't have to pay minimum wage to allow people to work close to where they live, then they don't have to spend 40%. So you can already deduct the 40%. We just need a government to start thinking smartly about putting people into work. We don't see that. We need to lower the cost of manufacturing, provide affordable, reliable energy, keep the lights on, break the monopoly of Eskom. Those are simple things that we believe will make this economy grow. Now, we saw some growth in Nelson Mandela Bay, and I want to just share an example with you. In Nelson Mandela Bay, when I became the mayor, I'd never been a mayor before. I'm a farmer, actually. That's what I am. So I was a bit apprehensive. Ek was 'n bietjie bang. Ek het nie geweet of ek dit goed genoeg sal kan doen. The second day after I had been inaugurated, I walked into my office and a Mr. Basson, who'd worked in that municipality for 36 years, said to me, "Meneer, wat het meneer nou gedoen? Die hele stadsaal praat. Hulle is opgewonde." And I didn't know what I'd said or done. I didn't know if I'd broken some sacred mayoral protocol. Toe sê ek vir hom, "Rolf, wat het ek gedoen?" Toe sê hy, "Nee, gister, toe jy uit jou kantoor uitgestap het 'n jong swart dame deur die deure gekom. Jy het een kant toe gestaan, you introduced yourself to her, you asked her who she was, where she worked, and you said you look forward to working with her." En kyk ek vir die ou so en ek sê, "Is dit nou verkeerd, Rolf?" Toe sê hy, "Nee, maar nee, dis nie verkeerd nie." He said, "It just hasn't happened here for the last 20 years. And I knew instinctively then that if I just applied the values that I and all of us were brought up with, manners, mutual respect, give people dignity, that we'd be fine." And you know what? That municipality was 90% ANC, the officials. But we started working with them on that principle, and they responded magnificently. I said we'd run that city like train tracks. Train tracks are perfectly parallel, because if they come together, you have a derailment. If they move apart, the train, they fall. And I said I would keep politics out of the administration as long as the administrators kept out of the politics. And you know what? They responded magnificently. Want vir die eerste keer het politikuste nie vir hulle gesê, "Stuur die kontrak na die persoon dat ons daai geld kan kry en maak so en maak so." Die konkelraai was weg. And you know what happened? In 1 year, we went from being the second least trusted metro to the second most trusted after Cape Town. The next year, we were the only city to improve on the service delivery index done by Business Tech. We went up 2.9 points. All the other municipalities went down by 2.5 points. That year, we were given an additional funding windfall, Bonsela, Ipaso, of 176 million by Treasury, because we spent 100% of our capital grant. I told the people of Nelson Mandela Bay that they would get 100 cents worth of value of every rand spent. There's never enough money in government. But if you spend every cent on delivery, you'll be surprised how much you can do. So we got extra money. This year we got 200 million rand from Treasury. Never happened before. Never. And people of Nelson Mandela Bay started feeling it. Started feeling change. So I know that we can run this country better. Al wat ons moet doen, ons moet net besluit wat ons wil hê. Now, Sean Fitzpatrick, was the former All Blacks rugby captain. He was the most successful All Blacks rugby captain. And I want to tell you a story about that guy. He was a man of few words, miskien omdat hy 'n hakker was. But he had a team talk that consisted of 4 words to his team. When they won, he said to them, "Never forget this feeling." And when they lost, what do you think he said to them? "Never forget this feeling." And the All Blacks are the best rugby side in the world. It's difficult for me to say that, because I'm a Springbok. But they are the best side in the world, because they win way more than they lose. And why is that? Because they made a decision. Dis 'n meningsverandering, of 'n benaderingsverandering. They made a decision. Despite being the smallest country with the smallest population, they're the best rugby side in the world. Because they made a decision. Bosman, kan ek Afrikaans praat hierso? Huh? Afrikaans. Ek wil iets beskryf. Verloor is 'n kakgevoel. Wen is 'n baie lekker gevoel. And they chose. They've made a choice. Conscious choice. Hulle wil nie kak voel nie. So ons kan ook besluit. Do we want to feel like we feel right now about South Africa on the 9th of May? Or we're going to say, no, ons wil lekker voel. And ek wil lekker voel. And I know that if enough of us, more and more of us, and we convince others to make conscious decisions about how we want to feel in elections, you'll be surprised. You can get change everywhere in South Africa. So I want to just say that the DA understands that you have to have a partnership between government, the private sector or business, and the labor unions. But they must all be equal partners. Equal partners. Nie een kan die ander oorheers. En op die oomblik in Suid-Afrika oorheers die regering en die arbeidsunie oor besigheid. There's a hostile rhetoric about business. There's horrible references about white minority capital, whether it's white or whether it's just capital. Nobody likes capital, and it's a mess. And that's why we can't grow this economy. But what we're doing is we're trying to do something that's never been done in this country before. The Business Day wrote an article about Mmusi Maimane. Hulle het gesê hy is sy tyd vooruit. He's ahead of his time, wanting to build one South Africa for all of us. Never been done before. And why do we want to do that? It's so simple. It's not like cutting up a cake. If I had to cut up a cake for all of us to have a piece here, the pieces would be thin, and some of you would just get krummeltjies, and some wouldn't even have cake. But if you want to give somebody dignity, Tata, I don't have to take dignity from you to give it to you. I don't have to take opportunity from you to give it to her. It's infinite. There's enough for all of us. It's just an attitude. And we have an attitude of we're better together. There are political parties like the Freedom Front Plus, the EFF and the ANC. They want us divided. Hulle verdeel ons. Hulle maak ons verdag teen mekaar. Ek weet nie hoekom nie, who in their right mind would want us to be perpetually and continually divided. We don't want that. So what we're trying to do is build a South Africa where everyone can have a job, where our economy can grow, where we can hold hands together, and where we can fix and redress the past. I had a slogan that I came up with in Nelson Mandela Bay, that my objective was to transform townships into suburbs. Until you can fly over a South African town and city and not see where poor black people live and where white rich people live, we've still got a long way to go. And the only way we can do it is together. Not taking from whites to give to blacks, not taking from Indians to give to coloreds, because all that does is stir up strife. So we've identified 5 things in our campaign. And the first is the economy and creating jobs. Ek het genoeg daaroor gepraat. The second is crime. I've made some references, but our police force is useless. They are under-resourced, they are badly led, they are demoralized, they are also too badly paid. The safest countries in the world respect their police. They pay them well, hulle dra hulle op hulle hande. I've been to functions in a country like the United States, where firemen and women, ambulance services, teachers and policemen are like number 1 citizens. They are respected. In this country, think about those 4 sectors. They are neglected and disrespected, and that is why we've got such a mess in our country. Crime in the platteland is nog erger. Boere moet 30% van hulle jaarlike inkomste bestee om hulle self te beveilig. En hulle werkers, en hulle familie, en hulle lewende hawe, en hulle pompe, en hulle pivots, en hulle boorde, en hulle oeste. 30% to protect all of that, means of production, and their lives and their staff lives. Before inflation, before increased cost of diesel, before minimum wages, before compounded by drought. I don't know how they do it. And they get 0 support from government. They just get criticism all the time. Farm murders are out of control. When I say farm murders, I'm not talking about white farmers. I'm talking about people who live on farms, black and white, emerging and commercial farms. They're completely out of control in South Africa. I know it personally. I've lost 3 family members from farm murders. And then, borders. Our borders are a joke. If you come to this country through an airport or a harbor, it's like going to America or the United Kingdom. You've got to have a passport and you've got to have a visa. But if you want to come here from Zimbabwe or Mozambique or Swaziland or Lesotho or Namibia or Botswana, you just walk across the border. Now, can I ask you, ma'am, would you have somebody in your house that you didn't invite, that you don't know, and you have no idea how long they're going to stay? Would you have them in your house? So why do we have them in our country? I'm not saying people aren't welcome. We want people to come to our country. We want tourists. We want people to invest. We want people from Zimbabwe. We want them all. But we want to know who they are, that they're not criminals. Hoe lang gaan hulle bly? Wanneer gaan hulle teruggaan? Wat maak hulle met hulle geld? Are they paying taxes? That's what we want to know. So we're saying it doesn't matter where you come from, Swaziland or Switzerland. Bring your passport, bring your visa. Otherwise, you are undocumented and unwelcome in South Africa. It's a simple thing. Daar's niks snaaks daaroor. There's another reason. Biosecurity. We've got foot and mouth disease in South Africa. We can't export meat or wool or mohair because we've got foot and mouth disease. Where did it come from? It walked over the border. We have to comply. We've got to declare outbreaks because we export, other countries don't. Now we can't sell our stuff, but Lesotho's selling South African produce from Lesotho to China. But we can't export it. Ons regering gee nie vir ons om nie. They don't care about the platteland economy. The next one is corruption. I don't think I need to speak more about corruption. I think I've said enough about it. But don't you think we deserve better leaders? Don't you think we need leaders that we can follow? Leaders that we don't see on the television every day being exposed for fraud and theft and having books written about them? And Jacob Zuma building in Kanga, and then we hear about the Gaddafi millions and all that. Don't you think we now deserve some proper leaders? I think so. No DA person has appeared before the Zondo Commission. And I'm telling you today now, no DA person will appear before the Zondo Commission. When we find our people who are corrupt in the DA, we deal with them. Mense sê, hoekom baklei julle so met Patricia de Lille? Dis nie 'n bakleiery nie. We said we'd stop corruption. As die vis se kop vrot is, moet jy die kop afsny. Help nie dat jy by die vinne begin nie. And we dealt with her. That's what it was. She was no longer representing what we wanted. She inherited a city with clean audits. In the last year, we got an audit qualification. She was implicated in a number of issues of corruption. It's going to come out. Dit vat net tyd. Mense sê, hoekom sê julle nie vir die media? Well, they're criminal cases laid. It's sub judice. Can't go and sprout it out in the media. And sy is onskuldig and so heilig. Have you ever heard of somebody who's guilty who says they're guilty? Dit gebeur nie. Die tronk is vol mense wat onskuldig is. The other day, they burned some trains in Cape Town. And they arrested this one guy, and he said, no, I burnt the trains. Do you know what the court's immediate response was? He must be sent for psychiatric observation. So I've never heard a criminal say, I'm guilty. They all say I'm innocent until found guilty. Okay, die DA van ons, Lombuto wetu Sutanda, Yogangag. Ons kry baie die wind van voor. Mense lieg. Mense sê, Musi het dit gesê, en dat Musi ondersteun dat, en Musi dit gedoen, en dan vraag ek vir die mense, het jy hom gehoor? Nee, ek het nie eintlik gehoor nie, ek het gehoor by die klub, by die golfklub. Ja, ek het op Facebook gesien, dis die waarheid. But you know one thing, I have to motivate my colleagues. I have to motivate my colleagues and tell them, don't worry, it's actually a hell of a compliment. When people are talking about you, hulle het nog moed in jou. Hulle verwag meer. So people still talk about the DA. They're worried about the DA's future. And that's fine. Kobatata, gesithosa bathi, izinja zikhonkotha ezihambayo. Ezi zingahambiyo ziyachamela. That means, en ek het die reg gekry om Afrikaans te praat, die honde blaf vir die bewegende karre. Die wat stil staan, hulle pie op hulle bande. Now, I'd far rather people shouted and barked at us than urinated on us. Okay? So we take it as a compliment. We are relevant, we're not perfect, and we want to change South Africa, but we are at least trying to do it. Ek sien daar's borde wat sê, slaan terug en van verskillende partye. My vraag is, met wat? As jy nie raadslede het nie, as jy nie LP's het nie, as jy nie LPV's het nie, dan kan jy nie komitees verteenwoordig en daar gaan sit. The Freedom Front Plus did not attend one agricultural portfolio committee meeting in 5 years in Parliament. And they say they represent farmers. We've got 3 committee members on that committee. They didn't have one there. Slaan terug met wat? Toe sê 'n ou oom vir my in Klerksdorp, en vir wie? You know, a vote for the Freedom Front Plus in this election is a wasted vote because they don't have one MP or MPL from this province. Now you need to get enough votes to get an MP elected before your vote is worth anything. As jy dit nie reg kry nie, dan is dit 'n gemorste stem. Despite what they say. It's Friday night. It's Puza Friday. But I want to leave you with two stories. The one story is a really tragic story, and I need to tell you about it. And the other one is a story of hope. Wie van julle het gekyk op Facebook of Twitter oor die Schweizer Reinicke skool affære? Sit net jou hand op. Okay. Now in Schweizer Reinicke, a teacher took a picture of her class. She sent it to the parents sent it to their friends, the friends sent it to their friends, then it was on Times Media, and then it went viral, and the young youth leader of the DA, Luyolo Mpiti, saw the picture. He never said it was racist. He never said Ilana Barkhuizen is a racist. This is what he said. And it's on the record, and nobody has been able to dispute it. He said, this picture in 2019 of segregated children is unacceptable. And I am going to the school tomorrow to ask for an investigation. And he did something completely unusual for a politician. He went to the school tomorrow. He met the principal, met the school governing body, he met the parents, and he met the MEC. And he said, "My pandwelendo." He or the DA didn't climb over the fence and threaten the children and the parents and threaten to burn the school down like the ANC and the EFF did. But the people on the right-wing fringe in this country, hulle maak die DA verdag. They are in opposition to the DA, not the people who behaved so badly, who did all of those things that we didn't do. And I met with AfriForum. I met with Dirk Herman. I said, "Dirk, wys vir my waar het Luyolo dit gesê." Hy kon dit nie vir my wys nie. Hy het gesê maar dit en maar dat. Now let me tell you about Luyolo Mpiti. He's also a member of One South Africa, Team One South Africa. He's 30 years old. He was raised by his granny. He had a terrible education. When he saw that picture, it triggered something inside him. And it triggered something inside of him that said, this can't be right. Because he represents a third of the voters in this next election, young people. He built his granny a house before he reached the age of 30. I've got a 30-year-old son. He hasn't even built me a Wendy house. But I don't expect him to, but he had much more opportunity than Luyolo. So I would be proud to have Luyolo as my son, and proud that he had the guts to say, what is wrong and what's right is right. I'm just saying. I've got SMSs here to Liana Barkhuizen. I listened to that lady on TV. She triggered something in me too. Sy het gesê, ek is 'n mama, ek is 'n vrou, ek is 'n juffrou. Al wat ek wil doen, ek wil my kinders klas gee. Hulle is lief vir my, ek is lief vir hulle. I phoned Luyolo immediately. I said, Luyolo, go and meet Ilana Barkhuizen. Dit het versoening nodig. Verdraagsaamheid. I said to Dirk Herman, dit het leierskap nodig. We need leadership around these issues that are flashpoints in our society. Every single day, there are flashpoints like that. Maar die regte vleuel wat ons wil verdeel, sê Luyolo is die duiwel. En die DA sê, die arme vrou is 'n rasis. Nowhere was it said. I went to the Northwest 3 times in 10 days after that incident to go and meet with the people to talk to them about it. Musi Maimane went that Friday to have a lecture at the Potchefstroom University. Ons het reguit met die mense gepraat. Maar dis nou nog 'n issue. Go onto Facebook and you'll see. But I want to give you another example. The week before that, Sia Kolisi, ons Springbok rugby kaptein, hy het gesê, hy stem nie saam met quotas in sport. And he said if President Mandela was alive, he also wouldn't support quotas in sport. And you know what the response was from the left fringe? Black first, land first, EFF, ANC. You know what they said? They said he must be necklaced, want hy probeer te wit wees. Now I want to tell you, if we leave the future up to those two fringes of society, our country is doomed. Ons land sal brand. So we need to bring the ANC down to size, around 50%. If they get 55%, together with the EFF 7%, they've got 2/3 majority, then there's problems. If we bring them down to size like 50% and, God willing, under 50%, then we can have a discussion. Who knows? The next coalition in this country might be between the DA and the ANC on our terms. And our terms will be, Cyril, what you can't get right, we'll get right for you. We'll go into a coalition with you, as long as Mabuza is not there, Makashule is not there, Duarte is not there, and the rest of the criminals. Want Cyril kan dit nie doen nie, maar miskien kan ons dit vir hom doen. So we meet in the middle, like a family. When a man and wife come together, they don't even know each other, but they know what they want. They want a future, they want a family, and they meet in the middle, and they make commitments about the future. Hulle gaan stry, hulle gaan baklei, maar hulle het 'n doelwit. And we can do that in South Africa, but not if we leave it to the left fringe and the right fringe. I can promise you that won't work. My second story and my last story is my 40 years experience in politics. And I'm so excited for May 8, ek kan nie meer wag nie. In 1979, I worked in my first campaign, door to door, like our activists do every day. I went to do door to door in a place called Grahamstown. It was the Albany constituency. And so het dit gegaan. Maak die tannie die deur oop, sy kyk vir my so, sy sê, ja boetie, wat soek jy? Ek sê, nee mevrou, ek wil kom stemme werf vir die PFP. Kyk sy my so, wat so goed? Nee boetie, in die huis is ons almal NP. Ek en my man en ons skoonouers, ons is almal NP. Dankie, nee dankie. The PFP was a small little party in opposition. 1994, President Mandela was the president-elect. Everybody had been waiting for this democracy. I mean, who could have beaten him? My party said to me, go and campaign in the Transkei because I speak Xhosa. Ja, Transkei. Avelo mama toe. Dan kom longo so bona. Hier's 'n blanke kom kyk. Dit was ongekend destyds. Ufuna ni tata. Hayi mama ndizokhankasela iDP. Intoni? You hawu ndenza amasikisi. Sonke apha kulomzi siyi-ANC. Nokhokho kakhokho siyi-ANC. Jy gee my rillings man, ons is almal ANC. Selfs ons voorvaders is ANC. The DP got 1.7% in 1994. Almost wiped out. Gaan ons aan. 2000, we formed the DA. NP, DP, Federal Alliance. Later we've got members who've come from the ANC or PAC or COPE or wherever in our party. We're a party for all South Africans. We started it in 2000. And this year is the first time that babies that were born in DA homes are going to vote. 2019. Hulle is 18 and 19 jaar oud. When the EFF comes, the young children or young people who are going to be voting for the first time, they're going to go, "Molo Putin gaan net aan Jan. Ja, jy votel die EFF." Was dat jy, "Hi, nee, hi EFF. Uma mu DA, utatu DA." Naam dis aber DA. So you don't even speak Xhosa, but you understand what I'm saying. Because you know what? The wheel of political fortune also turns. It's turned hell of a slowly. It's a 40-year story. But I can't wait for the 8th of May. Please, pick a team, support that team, do what you can for that team to help us save this country. If you don't do it, your children will never forgive you. And the last thing, don't give up hope for South Africa. You know, self-doubt is the most immobilizing, demoralizing thing that human beings suffer from. Self-doubt, self-twyfel. Ukungazithembi. You know, when my first experienced that, when my wife was going to give birth to our first child, She had to have an emergency Caesar after 20 odd hours of labor. And I stood outside that surgery, and I had these terrible thoughts going through my mind, that she was going to die, or my child was going to die, or they were both going to die. Instead of sitting outside there thinking, here comes a miracle, we've got great doctors, we're going to have our first child, and everyone's going to be fine, I was racked with self-doubt. And I took a conscious decision then that I'm never going to let doubt keep me down. I'm never going to give up. And I don't want you ever to give up on this country. This country needs us now more than ever before. Thank you very much.